Teachers attempted to instruct the boys in party policy.
My God, we couldn't care less about party policy. We were Nazis. For us, National Socialism was something else altogether. It was much more than purely party policy.
The son of leading Nazi Martin Bormann had to ask his father for clarification.
Dad, tell me, what is National Socialism? And that was after 3 years of instruction on Mein Kampf and party policy. My father was clearly quite surprised by the question. His answer was a sentence that hit the nail on the head. National Socialism is the Führer's will, full stop. He dictates the full stop, too.
All pupils were trained to follow the Führer's orders to the letter. They learned his speeches word for word and carried his photograph in their breast pocket.
Erde ist ein Wanderpokal. Die Erde ist nicht für feige Völker da, nicht für Schwache und nicht für Faule, sondern die Erde ist da für denjenigen, der sie sich nimmt.
Hitler's academies had been loosely modelled on the British public school system. There was even a visit to one school by a class from Eton.
Ich finde es sehr schön. Vieles ist noch fremd für mich.
Ja, und es ist eine sehr gute Gelegenheit, sich kennenzulernen.
Nanik, ich meine, wir kommen doch gut aus miteinander.
Ja, gewiss.
At the German school, boys noticed how different the Etonians were.
Sie hatten einen Hauch von Eleganz, den wir nicht hatten. They had a touch of elegance that we didn't have. They were relaxed and we weren't. We were the ones who marched in squads, one squad behind the other, across the parade ground. And the Eton boys, who were visiting us, stood on the other side, leaning casually on the railing, probably saying, "What idiots." They were gentlemanlike. We were already little soldiers. Wohin wir schon kleine Soldaten waren.
One subject came to dominate Hitler's classrooms more than any other. The problem of what to do with the Jews. One of the defining principles of Nazi ideology was racial purity. Race dominated Hitler's elite schools. Before pupils were allowed in, there were strict selection procedures.
Wir mussten nachweisen Rassenreinheit bis zum Jahre.
We had to prove our racial purity back to 1800. That was a big problem for me because in the first half of the 19th century, some church records were burnt. So there were gaps in my family tree.
Und das war für mich also ein richtiger Schock.
It was a real shock for me not to be accepted immediately. Instead, I had to have about 8 photos of me taken from different angles. They were sent to the SS Reich Security Office in Berlin, which had a race office. Several months later, I was incredibly relieved to hear, "You are Aryan. It's okay."
Bist arisch, es reicht.
From the very start of Nazi rule, all German school children were taught about race. Books and magazines were written especially for children by one of Hitler's earliest supporters, Julius Streicher.
Pflanzt es in die Jugend hinein das Wissen, dass am Juden die ganze Menschheit zugrunde geht. Erzieht die Kinder zu einem gesunden Hass, zu einem gesunden Zorn. Sagt den Kindern jawohl mit der Peitsche. Hat er sie hinausgehauen. Erzeugt diesen Hass.
Trust no fox in the woods. Trust no Jew on his oath. That was essentially it. The evil Jew kept turning up. For us, it was a given that Jews were evil.
At first, some teachers refused to conform.
We had one teacher who'd say, cross out the next sentence, don't learn the next sentence. Put brackets around that, it's nonsense. We worked through the whole book like that at school.
In 1935, all teachers were placed directly under party control. They were told that the Jewish problem should now be the focus in the classroom.
The teachers always attacked the Jews. In our history lessons, we also had racial science, where we were told that the Aryan race was better.
This so-called racial science was used to prove the inferiority of the Jewish race.
Ich hatte dort das Problem, dass ein Lehrer mich vor die Klasse zitierte und sagte.
A teacher called me out to the front of the class and said, "Do you know what a bastard is?" We had heard about bastards in our biology class. Then he said, "This boy, his mother is Jewish. That says it all."
Das sagt ja wohl alles. Und da habe ich mich sehr gewundert.
I was very surprised that my classmates didn't react all that much.
Reagiert haben.
Children were forced to face a panel of SS medical staff.
So, jetzt machen wir die Augen ganz groß auf und schaust mich an. Ja. Georg Weber, Augenfarbe 2a.
Das waren SS-Ärzte?
SS doctors visited the school. Tables were set up in the gymnasium. We were weighed and our skulls were measured. Then we were classified.
Ich war eben Arisch 2, während also mein...
I was Aryan too. My best friend had a skull like old Hindenburg, so he was Phalian. You were classified as Phalian, Dinaric, Eastern, and so on.
Oder so war.
Wenn ich mich umschaute in der eigenen Jahrgangsgemeinschaft.
When I looked around at the boys in my year, we certainly weren't all ideal Aryan types. There were plenty of boys with round Saxon heads or Bavarian Dinaric profiles with a hooked nose.
Mit Hakennase.
In Hitler's schools, it wasn't only the Jews who were unacceptable.
Ich kenne einen Fall.
I know one case of a boy with a round skull and face. I don't want to mention his name. He had to leave the school. They said he was pure Eastern.
In Latin lessons, boys were taught how the Roman Empire dealt with Jews. But the Holocaust was never mentioned.
Bis wir dran sind, die Führung zu übernehmen.
We thought, by the time it's our turn to be the leaders, the Jewish problem will be solved. Germany will be free of Jews. There won't be any left. But we didn't think about Auschwitz, or about Jews being gassed. We wouldn't have been able to imagine that being done. Throwing them out, yes, but killing them, the master race wouldn't do it. It wasn't gentlemanly. It didn't fit the picture at all. We were idealists.